AT-AT attack. Luke Skywalker wasn't always a Jedi Knight defending the galaxy against Darth Vader and the evil Empire. He was raised as a farmer. There were many ways that someone could fight the Empire. Luke would decide between becoming a soldier and fighting as a Jedi Knight on a frozen planet called Hoth. Luke and his friends were hiding in a rebel base on Hoth when Darth Vader found their hideout. Vader ordered his troops to attack the rebels. The alarm sounded and Luke quickly put on his pilot suit and left the medical bay. Not thinking about it, Luke took his lightsaber, the weapon of the Jedi Knights, with him, even though it could not help him pilot his snowspeeder during the attack. Luke remembered that Obi-Wan Kenobi had recently appeared to him. Had he been a ghost? And told him to go to the planet Dagobah, where Luke would find Yoda, a powerful Jedi Master. Luke shook his head. He needed to focus on that day's battle and worry about Dagobah later. Luke said goodbye to his friends, Han Solo and Chewbacca. They were staying behind with Princess Leia to make sure she got off Hoth safely. Han was, as usual, doubtful that Luke and the rebels could beat the Empire. He cautioned Luke about trying to use that Jedi magic. He paused a moment and then said, "Be careful." Luke knew Han cared for him, and this was how he wished Luke well. Chewbacca showed that he cared by giving Luke a giant furry hug and a warm Wookiee roar. Luke boarded his snowspeeder as the rest of the rebels set up defensive cannons in the snow. They all waited quietly for the attack they knew was coming. Finally, they saw what the Empire had sent to fight them. Giant metal monsters that walked on 4 legs. The all-terrain armored transports. AT-AT walkers. In their flying snowspeeders, Luke Skywalker and Rogue Squadron attacked the AT-AT walkers, but their blaster fire bounced off the AT-ATs. It didn't even slow them down. "That armor's too strong for blasters," Luke said as he came up with a different plan to stop the giant foes. Luke called his fellow pilots over the radio. "Use your harpoons and tow cables. Go for the legs. It might be our only chance of stopping them." Luke's team followed his plan, shooting cables around one of the AT-AT's legs, causing it to stumble and fall. One AT-AT down. The troops inside the rebel base cheered as Luke's squad held off the AT-ATs. They might escape after all. The second AT-AT was destroyed, but soon so was most of Rogue Squadron. Luke was one of the last pilots left, and he still needed to take down the final AT-AT. It was the only way Princess Leia and his friends could safely escape before Darth Vader arrived. Just as Luke circled around for another attack, the rebels were told that Darth Vader had entered the base. Han Solo, no longer willing to wait for Princess Leia to finish helping with the evacuation, pulled her aside. "Come on, that's it," Han said. Leia turned to her last soldiers and told them to get off Hoth safely. Han, Chewbacca, C-3PO, and Princess Leia all boarded Han's famous ship, the Millennium Falcon. Han knew they would make it, as long as Luke stopped that AT-AT outside. But they couldn't wait any longer. Han shouted to Chewie, "Punch it!" The Millennium Falcon's engines blasted to life, and the ship darted toward the exit. As Luke flew toward the AT-AT, his snowspeeder was hit. Luke was going down. He struggled to eject. Just as the AT-AT's giant foot stomped on the vehicle, Luke jumped into the snow. With his snowspeeder destroyed and no blaster powerful enough to pierce the AT-AT's armor, all Luke had left was his willpower, a grappling hook, a grenade, and his lightsaber. But what can a lightsaber do against an AT-AT? Luke thought. Luke picked himself up out of the snow and concentrated. He drew on the Force to help him run more quickly than ever before, and caught up with the AT-AT. He fired his grappling cable at the underside of the AT-AT and used it to pull himself up to the belly of the beast. As Luke approached, he wondered how he would get through that armor, and then he remembered the first thing Obi-Wan had ever told him about a lightsaber. "This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster. An elegant weapon for a more civilized age." At the time, he had had no idea how much that lightsaber would change his life forever. Luke ignited his lightsaber and slashed through the AT-AT's armor, creating a hole in the AT-AT's belly. He threw a grenade into the opening and dropped from his cable all the way down into the snow. Luke, exhausted from the effort, remained in the snow waiting for the boom. The AT-AT exploded, crumpling to the snow-covered ground. He'd done it. Luke watched as the Millennium Falcon zoomed by him and into outer space. He was happy to know that his friends Han Solo and Princess Leia were safe. Darth Vader finished his search of the rebel base and found it empty. He was outraged that he'd missed his prey. But there would be another time and another fight. Darth Vader was as patient as he was deadly. Luke looked down at the lightsaber in his hand. He realized that when his snowspeeder had crashed and his back had been against the wall, it was his lightsaber, the weapon of the Jedi Knights, that had saved his life and those of his friends aboard the Millennium Falcon. With the AT-AT attack thwarted and his friends heading away from Hoth in the Millennium Falcon, Luke was free to choose between becoming a soldier and becoming a Jedi Knight. That day on Hoth, any one of the soldiers in the Rebel Alliance would have said they needed more soldiers, but Luke knew it was the power of the Jedi that had saved them. With that last thought in his mind, Luke set his course for Dagobah to find the wise Jedi Master Yoda. Luke would one day become the greatest of Jedi Knights.